Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it. We'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, August 27th, 2025, 1 p.m. Eastern. We are live right now, so if you have any questions for us, don't forget to ask them, whether it's scrap related, tariff related, future pricing related, any of the things that relate, to go with the scrap, let me know. First and foremost, do not forget, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get access to our videos. And if you're looking to get access early or extra videos for you to make money, our YouTube membership offers just that. Gives you the ability to get some early access to videos and special videos that we only make for our YouTube members. All right, plug over, move into the scrap world. Let's talk about something that I don't talk a lot about positively for the last few months, and that's steel, right? Let's talk about steel for a little while. I was in Colorado yesterday, and I was talking to a couple of people that are in the energy space, and we were looking at a plant that needs to be taken down. And when we were looking at it, they were like, "Oh, how much is this metal worth? A few $1 million?" Question mark. I go, no. I said, maybe there's $200,000 worth of steel here. And what it made me realize was that a lot of people in a lot of spaces outside the scrap space doesn't think about commodities the way that we think of them. And they were asking me if those prices were high or if those prices were low. And I said, in relative terms, I think that those prices are low, but there's a few contributing factors that go into the market, steel pricing being the way that it is. You have the tariffs, which are obviously causing problems. You have the war with Russia, which is causing problems. And I'll kind of stop it at that, because when we look at steel, there's not a lot of other places to go. But I read a really great article from Recycling Today that we'll share with you. And I'm just going to read a couple of sentences. Maybe I'll recap them to give you an idea. Prices for benchmark grades of recycled steel in the U.S. stayed level or rose less than $5 per ton in August. So we saw no gain. We saw essentially no gain, right? If we say $5 a ton on a $150 average, we're talking 3.5% here. So we're not talking about anything crazy. But what was interesting to me was when you go down the article and you go on the page a little bit, it talked about global steel, and it talked how the world has actually produced more steel year over year than they did in 2024. And when I look at that, it's like, okay, well, what's going on here? And here's where I keyed in on, and it was one of the last, one of the middle sentences. Rolling mills that also operate melt shops in both Turkey and India. I lost my place here. Might be tapping into semi-finished steel billets supplied by nations including China and Russia, rather than loading up on recycled steel from the US. They don't like the tariffs. The tariffs are going to cause problems for the price of steel. And here we are 4.5 months since Liberation Day in April. And what I can see, the biggest problem is going to be this steel industry and steel pricing. I pulled a chart up earlier to show someone how iron ore has moved. And when you look at the price of iron ore, it's at the same level that it was at in 2019. And that was before all of that money was printed during COVID and then the first year of the Biden administration. So in my mind, steel prices are even lower than they were before COVID, and other things cost more. So steel prices are depressed. I think that if tariffs and barriers were removed, we'd almost immediately see an increase. But what we're now seeing 4 or 5 months into this Liberation Day is that other countries are coming up with new ways to figure out how to make the steel recycling work. So in this article, they're talking about 2 countries supplying, all these steel billets and not shipping out steel. So earlier in the article, it talked about 78% of the U.S. capacity for steel recycling was happening. So there still is a 20% improvement at the local mills and factories in the U.S., but we don't see prices improving. So the scrap is flowing, things are happening, but nothing crazy. Tommy Pate says, will the price of shred go up? Tommy, I don't see any steel prices going up. I mean, the good news that I wrote about in my weekly report talked about how we haven't heard any tariffs going on iron ore, as Trump had talked about a few weeks ago. So that's good news because it hasn't disrupted the market. But I don't see a lot of good news on the horizon where I would be like, oh, I'm optimistic that steel is going to go up. I don't see increases this year for steel. And one major factor that contributes to steel, when you look at energy prices, we got really cheap energy right now. I paid $2.77 for regular gasoline on Monday. And I was in Louisiana a month and a half ago, and I saw prices in the $2.40 range. So we have relatively low energy costs for gas and transport. Maybe not the energy going into our homes. That's going to increase in price. But the physical transportation of goods has become cheaper. And we still haven't seen steel prices going up. So where do I see these markets going? The only item that I would hold is stainless, so I wouldn't look at anything else. And all my regular steel is in and out as quickly as it can come in. So if you want to hold any steel, it should be your stainless steel, but I would be moving my light iron, my shred, my unprepareds, my rotors, whatever you guys get, I'd be moving them right out the door. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight. So copper, what's going on with the copper markets? Week over week, we're even. That's great. And more importantly, for the last 3 weeks, we've kind of leveled ourselves out. That end of June and July were nuts with the copper tariff stuff that was happening. Copper prices going to $5.92. CU scrapping $3.49 in Central Illinois. Great price. Don't forget to post that online. If you're talking about Bear Bread, I think we're at $3.70 at Rockaway Recycling. So good numbers. But copper prices, I'm really happy, scrappers. I'm not holding anything. I'm not suggesting anyone holds things. I mean, are things going to go up? Sure, everything's going to go up at some point, right? I just think the levels are good. I look at them week over week. We're kind of even. End of August, lighter trading sessions, and we're still seeing good market movements. We saw those tariffs kind of removed a few weeks ago, which caused those prices to go down 20% in one day. But that just showed you that the tariffs made things uncomfortable for people domestically in the country. And now we're back on par with the rest of the world. So copper's in a really good place. I'm very bullish on copper moving forward, from the energy transition to EVs to data centers to new power plants being built to power all of this AI data center server growth. A lot of positives when it comes to copper right now. And scrappers, anyone that's going to say, I'm going to hold out for $5 per pound, enjoy your wait, because I never thought what happened in the month of July would happen, and I don't think that's going to repeat itself this year. So I think what we see right now is going to be really what we get. We've seen trade deals between the U.S. and other countries panning themselves out. The Chinese and the U.S. have another 60 or 90 day negotiating window, which is fine. But I do think that we're at a really good place when it comes to copper. So I'm bullish on selling it. I wouldn't hold anything right now. Insulated wires, brasses, Bear Brights, I'd move them all out the door almost immediately. I have no reason to advise that you should save any of them unless you don't need the money and you like gambling. So that's my kind of take on copper right now. Aluminum markets, again, relatively unchanged week over week, up a little over 1%. Positives, though, a lot of factories are being built. I was in Colorado yesterday, and I saw 5 different data centers being built. And they're huge. You can't miss them. Just humongous buildings. There's also a few Amazon fulfillment centers being built, but these things are popping up. And what's going to be interesting is to see how long they take to get online, because they can build buildings, they can buy servers, they can buy copper wire. The problem that we're going to run into is the electricity being generated, because they can't build power plants fast enough to feed many of these servers. So I'm almost worried that we're going to get to a spot where we're at a bottleneck, maybe next year, the end of next year, or the year after, where now factories are going. Maybe they go to implement phase 1. They want to turn the lights on, but you can't turn the lights on when there's not enough energy to power them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but that just shows me that the demand for copper is going to continue to stay strong. The other commodities like aluminum are going to come along their ways also. What we are seeing is more auto manufacturing coming back to the United States. That could have a really nice impact on the aluminum demand domestically, but it might not change prices, because don't forget, if we're keeping more stuff here in the United States and we're bringing less stuff in and shipping less metals out, well, then hopefully we'll come to an area where our supply and demand is comparable to what we need in the country, and we don't have to rely on other countries to import material. We don't have to rely on exporting material to other countries. We can do a lot of this in-house, so we'll continue to watch these factors as they go along. I mentioned a little while ago holding stainless steel. We briefly saw non-magnetic stainless dropping again. We've seen nickel prices trading below 15,000 a ton. I don't see a lot of good news when it comes to nickel and stainless steel pricing. I just sold a load of 316 stainless for like 97 cents or 98 cents a pound. Not long ago, I was paying 80 to 95 cents a pound for 316. So just to show you where nickel prices have gone, we've seen a 30-40% decrease in that stainless market. And many of you know I don't hold on to stuff, so I'm just turning and burning. But stainless is an item you may have an upside on, but until we start to see it integrated into more applications, whether it's in military, aerodynamics, in the aerospace industry, until we see these things happening, or everyone's driving a Cybertruck, right? I just don't see a lot of demand on the stainless side of things. So if you are into gambling and you do want to make some money on something, stainless may be something you can continue to shine on. So let's talk about carbide. Oh, we got a question. Tommy, what is heavy steel paying now? It depends on what you mean heavy steel. If it's like a torching grade, it could be 20 to 80 bucks. If it's an unprepared number 1, it could be between 140 and 170, maybe 180. Shred prices anywhere from 90 to 150, depending on your yards. But our ferrous section inside of the iScrap app site gives you the ability to check on a lot of these prices. So you probably see it in the background behind me. You'll be able to see some of the steel prices. Click on them. So Tommy, hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. And if you have prices yourself, don't forget to post those in there as well. Now, let's talk about carbide for a couple of minutes here. Record pricing in carbide and tungsten. Record pricing. Why? Well, manufacturing is up. Oil and gas production is up. And I was visiting a factory back in June and learned about carbide and how carbide is used in the oil and gas industries. And how, if this is a drill, when they take this drill and they put it down into the ground, well, what happens? The drill wears out. The bottom of it chips away because steel going through rock and everything else takes a long time, and it chews that away. Excuse me, it goes quickly and it chews the face away. So now they're taking a lot of these drilling bits, they could be 20 foot long, and they're putting carbide on the outside, or broken tungsten, or they're putting around the bottom. So now when they're drilling down into the ground, they have this really strong alloy that's helping go through stone, go through dirt, go through clay, go through the earth to access these pockets of gas and oil for extraction. So we're seeing more pumping, that drill baby drill in the United States, right? So now we're starting to see carbide applied in other ways. and we've just seen really high pricing. I know it's hard to find carbide, so sometimes it's frustrating for me to talk about these things to scrappers because I know that you're not going to come across it very often, but I want to let you know what's going on in the markets. Got a question? Robert Matthews says, I appreciate your show. It's very informative. Thank you. You are welcome. Tommy Pate says, I love the Scrap Metal group on Facebook. Hey, we love it too. Thank you both for those shout outs. It's really great learning about what people like because that's what helps us develop our videos, our content, the things we post out there. So just let us know. Last, but not really least, catalytic converters. Some strong growth in catalytic converters this summer. We've kind of seen that level itself off in the month of August. We've seen some higher pricing. So if you're looking to get quotes, we're still holding those quotes over rrcats.com for 10 days. And we have seen an uptick as more cats are being changed. And I talked about this in my weekly report. I'm really interested to see what happens in the second half of 2026 with the big, beautiful bill. Because if people are truly allowed to start writing off interest payments on domestically purchased automobiles, and that gets really kind of detailed down and explained better the second half of this year and the first half of next year, you may see a lot of people going into showrooms buying cars. And you may start to see these catalytic converters kind of getting recycled again. I remember that Obama program, that cash for clunkers, where a lot of cars were coming off the street. I don't think that's going to happen because we're not bribing people to go and get better vehicles, but we're kind of giving them a little advantage on what's that? Incentive on saving, that interest payment on your taxes. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, cap prices are still very strong. I'm very happy with them. So other than that, scrappers, I'm looking at everything going on. I think we're in a good place when this comes to the scrap industry, when it comes to scrap pricing. Let us know what you think. And if you're looking for us to make any content, different videos, different ideas, articles, whatever it may be, please let us know, and our team would be glad to do that for you. So my name is Tom Bouchel from Rockaway Recycling and the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. We will be back next week on September 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern live. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them before then. Until then, I'll scrap you later.